would playfully fight with one another at the school grounds and all this stuff. But because of this favoritism of sorts, we tend to look at newcomers like the PS2, the PS1, or even Xbox, Microsoft. I remember, you remember the stink that was raised at school with our fellow gaming friends who were just like, I can't believe Xbox is doing this. It's a computer, and they knew more specifics than I did, certainly, with this bus and all this bus stuff. But I have to say, in the final analysis, Microsoft has plugged through, including the Xbox One, which had some amazing software on it.
Well, but also, I mean, Microsoft has not done what everybody was scared they would do, where they just bought. I mean, they did buy a lot of companies, but they didn't take away their autonomy.
Correct. Very smart.
And really, honestly, I think that's what most of the fear was when the original Xbox came out, is that essentially Microsoft is just going to create a monopoly in video games and tell everybody else how to do it.
I think you're right.
Where, honestly, I'd say Sony has done worse in that regard, because every game that gets published on the PlayStation 2 must be in the style of some previous game that did really well.
Specifically with the PS1.
They really don't promote a lot of new intellectual property.
Yeah, and during the PS1 era, specifically PS1, Sony was the #1 killer of the 2D idea. Yes. 2D philosophy. That's why Sony now is heralded as the really kind of the ring bearer of the 3D age. And that's not entirely true.
No. In fact, Nintendo is responsible for that one.
Well, and
I mean, the FX chip.
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Star Fox was the first 3D game.
Right.
As far as mass market home console.
Home console, it was one of the first, yeah.
They were the first ones to really introduce that into the home. Before that, I believe it was only seen in The Last Starfighter and Lawnmower Man. In movies, that style of programming, at least.
Right, and you could see, certain, like Sony, though they were the ones to say, they really literally discouraged production of 2D games at all on the PS1.
Which is unfortunate, because some of the best 2D games that have ever come out on systems like the Dreamcast
and the counterpart, the Saturn.
Yeah.
The Saturn was a 2D killing machine. I mean, that thing could churn out more 2D figures than the Neo Geo, which is saying something.
Yeah.
Well,
it should too, with the way that system's set up. I mean, it has processing power like crazy.
Yeah, it's if you can tap it. Yeah, it's true. It's kind of a beast, I understand. But it's interesting to see the 3D, because there is Star Fox, but even before that, with Mode 7 built in. Mode 7 is this thing on the Super Nintendo that allows. It's an engine that allows 2D objects to scale in and out at varying rates of speed that kind of provide the sense of momentum, or size differentials and things like this. And that was even before the 3D technology really came into play. Nintendo's been big on that, but even before that, like, there are some games with the TurboGrafx actually that I've seen that I haven't downloaded because I've seen the reviews and they look boring as hell. But the graphics are really good. There's one called like Double Dungeons or something, and it sounds cheesy, but it really is a very impressive first-person kind of 3D thing. But I think that they haven't really, Sony hasn't really hindered a lot of developmental growth since the killing of the 2D, and I'm really glad though that other people have picked it up. Like the Dreamcast you mentioned did a number of phenomenal 2D fighters specifically, and shooters. But I think a lot of the Xbox's strengths do lie in what you were talking about. Microsoft's strengths lie in basically funding a company. Not taking over a company, but funding it. And I think that's mostly because of Peter Moore, personally.
Well, and as much as people complain about Microsoft, I mean, I think a lot of the animosity towards Microsoft is not from their treatment of video games, but from the animosity built up against Windows prior to
Yeah, you're right. Their OS.
I think it's a lot of carryover against the company. Same way, everybody hates Walmart, but they still shop there.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those kind of things where it's like, it's not a good thing, but you use it because it actually does work.
It is the cheapest in town.
And it is the way to do it if you want to get it done in that style.
Efficiently.
And so, I mean, there's other operating systems out there. There's Macs, there's Linux, but for the most part, Windows is the way to go, because all the programs that you want to use
are compatible.
Utilize it as an interface.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And so, though that's unfortunate because it slows down the development of computers, I think it does. Having a standardized system does make productivity higher in the end.
Yeah.
And so we can do more with the computers, even though we're not advancing their development as rapidly, because everything's interchangeable. And honestly, interchangeability is probably better than rapid progress.
That's an interesting argument.
From the standpoint of working in the world,
I think you're probably right. That's probably the number one reason the PS3 is using, not necessarily using, but that might not be the reason behind their use of the Linux. Isn't it Linux? It's running off Linux, I think. What's the one with the penguin? As the
Linux.
Is that Linux?
Yeah.
The PS3 runs off Linux, and also it's been given a 10-year lifespan, which is basically build onto something that is covered by most things.
I question that though.
It won't work. The public won't buy it. We want new every 6 years.
Yeah, well, that and also, while Linux is nice, all of the engines to program video games, though there are quite a few that do use Unix or Macintosh for say art, those things still get imported into compilers that are based on Windows.
Really?
So,
I didn't know that.
I mean, for the most
To an
part,
extent.
a lot of your testing equipment and things like that is on Windows-based computers. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of studios that use only Macs or only Unix, but
Sure.
because when it comes to creative property, like things like video editing, photo editing, sound editing,
Okay.
those are all going to be high-end products, and so every operating system is going to have its own version that works with it. So, you buy what works in your system.
Yeah,
but for the most
makes
part,
sense.
for mass production, everybody's got a Windows computer somewhere, so that tends to be the path things tend to take.
You are correct. As a person with a non-Windows computer, I will agree with you. It can be rough. That's why I like converters. I use my PC and my Apple, not in equal measure, but I do use my PC quite a bit still for converting.
I mostly use PC just because, a lot of the things I use, like the games the ROMs, definitely. A lot of the audio software is very, very good on PC. There's some good stuff on Mac also. I just never really felt that having a system that could only do one thing very, very well
right.
was worth it when you're buying a $2,000 computer.
I totally agree.
Like, I'm fine with doing it for a home console where
right.
like I'd be happy to buy a Mac to do art on if it was the price of a home console.
Yeah. Oh, and they're not. No, they're not.
But I'm not going to spend $5,000 when I'm not getting paid to do art.
Yeah.
So, I'd be happy to take the proceeds from recording an album with the band and buy a better computer to record on for the band.
I was going to
say,
I'm
not going to do it out of pocket because I don't know if it's going to pay out.
Right. I have to say, as a creative device, I do give it a thumbs up because of the integration. It really is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But
and just a simple plug and play. I mean,
yeah,
they have it down.
Yeah, they do.
But at the same time, if you want to branch out and use some new program, good luck finding something that works with your computer.
Yeah.
Not to mention, as much as everybody complains about the blue screen of death,
Blue screen of death?